You are standing in a J.C. Penney in 2012, and something feels wrong. Not a bad smell kind of wrong, a deep in your chest kind of wrong. The sale signs are gone. The red clearance tags are gone. The racks are full, and the prices are clean and round, and there is no reason, none, to reach for your wallet. You know the products are the same. You know the prices are fair, and you are not buying a single thing. This is the J.C. Penney honest pricing disaster, and it is the most expensive psychological experiment a retail chain has ever accidentally run on its own customers. In 2012, CEO Ron Johnson, the man who designed Apple's retail stores, decided to eliminate the artificial inflation and discount cycle that had defined American retail for decades. No more fake original prices, no more 60% off signs on items that had never sold at full price, just real prices, straightforward, every day. He called it fair and square. He believed customers had always wanted this. What actually happened, revenue dropped 25% in a single year. Same stores, same products, same customers. $985 million in losses. Johnson was fired in April 2013, 13 months after the experiment began. The behavioral mechanism that destroyed him had been documented by researchers at MIT and the University of Chicago a decade earlier. Customers don't evaluate the absolute value of a price. They evaluate the gap between where a price was and where it is now. The discount is not about the discount. It is about the narrative of the discount, the story that you got something the full price-paying suckers didn't. Remove the story, and you remove the entire psychological reward of the purchase. J.C. Penney's prices under Johnson were in many cases lower than the equivalent sale prices under the old system. It didn't matter. The customer's brain requires the performance of savings to trigger the purchase. The sensation of winning a deal is more important than the deal itself. Johnson had given customers honest prices and taken away the game they didn't know they were playing. There's a version of you that believes you make purchasing decisions based on value. That version has never stood in a retail aisle under fluorescent lights with a red clearance tag at eye level and felt something unlock. Ron Johnson found out what was actually in there, and it cost him $1 billion to learn it. You pick up a dress. It is $39. You put it down, pick it up again, and then buy it. Across the store, the same dress in a slightly different color is $34. You walked past that one. And at the end of the rack, a third version sits unsold at $44. The most expensive one stays on the rail. The cheapest one stays on the rail. The $39 dress, the middle price, the one with no logical claim to being the best value, goes home with you. This is the charm price effect, documented in a now canonical study by MIT economists Drazen Simester and Duncan Astley, published in 2003 in Marketing Science. They ran the experiment across multiple product categories and price points: dresses at $34, $39, and $44, catalog items at $22, $29, and $34. Consistent finding across all categories: prices ending in 9 outsell both lower and higher round number alternatives. The $39 dress outsold the $34 dress. The mechanism operates in 2 layers. The first is the left-digit anchoring effect. Your brain processes the leftmost digit of a price before the rest of the number resolves. $39 reads as 30-something before it reads as 39, while $40 reads immediately as 40. A single dollar creates a full decade of psychological distance. The second layer is the bargain heuristic. Decades of retail conditioning have trained your brain to read prices ending in 9 as discounted or promotional. The shape of the number carries an implicit history of sales stickers. Prelec and Simester also found that the 9 ending effect disappeared when the context signaled luxury or exclusivity. In a high-end jewelry setting, $400 outsells $399. The 9 ending triggers the bargain frame, and the bargain frame is incompatible with the identity signal of luxury goods. The trick only works when you are not supposed to notice it. You are shopping right now in a price environment that was engineered in a laboratory using your specific cognitive architecture. Every $29.99, every $14.99, every $99 is a precisely calibrated number, not a round price with a penny discount, but a trigger for a heuristic that operates before your conscious brain has finished reading the tag. The $39 dress is not $1 cheaper than $40. It is psychologically one category cheaper. The people who set that price know this. They counted on you not knowing it. You are in a Williams-Sonoma in 1992, and you are standing in front of a bread maker. It costs $279. You have never owned a bread maker. You are not sure you want a bread maker. You move on. 6 months later, Williams-Sonoma introduces a second bread maker at $429. You go back to the store. You look at the $429 model and you think, that seems like a lot. Then you look at the $279 model next to it. You buy the $279 bread maker. Sales of the $279 bread maker doubled. This is the Williams-Sonoma decoy effect, documented by behavioral economist Itamar Simonson at Stanford University in a 1992 paper in the Journal of Consumer Research. Simonson's central finding: people rarely choose products in isolation. They choose them in comparison to the options immediately available. Add a clearly inferior or clearly overpriced option to a set, and you change the meaning of every other option in the set. The $429 bread maker was not designed to sell. It was designed to make the $279 bread maker feel like a sensible choice, to transform an uncertain purchase into an obvious one. In Simonson's terminology, the $429 model is a dominated alternative, worse than the existing option on every relevant dimension at a higher price. Its only function is to shift the comparison frame. Williams-Sonoma spent money developing, manufacturing, marketing, and displaying a product it did not expect to sell in significant numbers, because the existence of that product doubled the revenue from the product it actually wanted you to buy. Simonson later extended this research with Amos Tversky into what they called context effects in consumer choice, the finding that preferences are not stable internal states retrieved from memory, but are constructed fresh each time through comparison. You do not have a preference for the $279 bread maker in any absolute sense. You have a preference for it relative to the $429 model. Remove the $429 model, and your preference may disappear entirely. Somewhere in the next product decision you make, a laptop, a subscription tier, a car trim level, there is a $429 bread maker. An option so disproportionate, so clearly unreasonable at its price point that it has only one purpose: to make the middle choice feel obvious. You won't remember seeing it. You'll just remember feeling confident about your decision. You find the concert. You check the price. $45 a ticket. You add 2 tickets. You fill in your name. You fill in your email. You select your seats. And then, on page 4 of a 5-page checkout, the total changes. There are service fees. There are facility fees. There are order processing fees. There is an $8 fee whose label exists in a font size that requires effort to read. The 2 $45 tickets now total $127.40. You have been in this checkout for 11 minutes. The concert is sold out elsewhere. You click Purchase. This is drip pricing, The deliberate strategy of displaying a base price while progressively revealing mandatory additional costs as the consumer moves through a purchase flow. The UK Competition and Markets Authority conducted a comprehensive review of this practice across sectors in 2023, with particular attention to event ticketing. Their findings? Consumers paid between 20 and 30% more than the displayed price in ticket transactions after fees were added. The authority documented that fees were, in the majority of cases, mandatory and unavoidable, not optional upgrades. In 2024, Ticketmaster's parent company, Live Nation, settled with the U.S. Department of Justice on a range of anti-competitive practices. Separately, in a 2023 class action settlement, Ticketmaster agreed to pay approximately $10 million over drip pricing practices in multiple U.S. states. The settlement did not require the company to change its pricing display structure. The behavioral mechanism that makes drip pricing so effective was identified in research by consumer psychologist Naomi Nandel and colleagues. By the time a consumer reaches the fee disclosure stage of a checkout, they have made multiple micro-commitments, filling in details, selecting preferences, investing time. Each micro-commitment raises the psychological cost of abandoning the purchase. The revealed fees are evaluated not against the rational question, would I pay $127 for these tickets, but against the sunk cost-laden question, do I want to lose all the time I've already spent in this checkout? The price you saw was not the price. The price you paid was not the price you agreed to. You agreed to a number you were shown before you had enough information to evaluate it, and by the time you had enough information, leaving felt worse than paying. This is not a bug in the checkout system. It is the checkout system. You are looking at an Economist subscription page. There are three options: web only, $59, print only, $125, web and print combined, $125. You look at the print-only option. It is $125 for only the physical magazine. The web plus print bundle is $125 for both the magazine and full digital access. The print-only option is, objectively, the worst deal on the page. There is no reason to choose it. You choose the web and print bundle at $125 and feel satisfied about the value. This is the exact experiment run by behavioral economist Dan Ariely at the MIT Sloan School of Management and documented in his 2008 book, Predictably Irrational. Ariely showed the three-option subscription structure to 100 MIT students. The breakdown: 0 students chose print only, 16 students chose web only at $59, and 84 students chose web plus print at $125. Average revenue per student, $114.44. Then Ariely removed the print-only option, the one no one had chosen. Just two options remained: web only at $59 and web plus print at $125. The distribution reversed completely. 68 students chose web only, 32 chose web plus print, average revenue per student, $79.74. The option that no one had chosen, when removed, had been quietly doing $34.70 of work per student, steering preferences by making the $125 bundle feel like obvious value by comparison. The print-only option is what Ariely calls a coherent arbitrariness anchor. Its presence doesn't add information, it restructures the comparison. When three options exist, two at the same price, one with clearly more value, the choice becomes trivially easy. You take the one with more value. The difficulty of the decision disappears, and with it, the hesitation. The $125 feels less like a large expenditure and more like the obvious correct answer. Every tiered pricing page you have ever looked at, streaming services, software subscriptions, gym memberships, contains at least one option that exists primarily to make another option feel inevitable. You thought you were choosing between good, better, and best. You were choosing between the answer and the two things placed next to it to make the answer feel obvious. You buy a Cadbury Dairy Milk bar. It is the same bar you have been buying for 15 years. The price has gone up a little over time, which you expect. Inflation is real. What you do not notice is that the bar itself is 40 grams lighter than it was in 2010. You were paying more for less. The package is the same shape. The logo is the same. The weight has been adjusted in increments small enough that no single change triggers the cognitive alarm that says something has been taken from me. This practice is called shrinkflation, reducing product quantity or weight while maintaining or increasing price in increments small enough to fall below the consumer's threshold of noticeable change. The Cadbury Dairy Milk bar moved from 200 grams to 180 grams in 2015, then from 180 grams to 160 grams in 2020, while the retail price increased across the same period. The effective price per gram increase over a decade was substantially higher than the visible shelf price change suggested. The scale of this practice across consumer goods was documented systematically by the UK Office for National Statistics in a 2022 analysis tracking 2,529 products between 2012 and 2022. Their finding, a significant portion of products across food, personal care, and household categories had undergone size reductions during the period, often concurrent with price increases. The ONS analysis found that weight reductions in confectionery items averaged 6 to 12% per reduction event. The behavioral mechanism that makes shrinkflation more effective than price increases was studied by researchers at the University of British Columbia in a 2018 paper in the Journal of Marketing Research. Consumers are more sensitive to visible price changes than to invisible quantity changes. A 10% price increase on a clearly labeled price tag triggers conscious evaluation and potential brand switching. A 10% reduction in weight, implemented gradually, triggers nothing. The brain's price tracking system monitors the shelf tag, not the gram count. The Cadbury bar in your hand right now contains less chocolate than the Cadbury bar in your hand 10 years ago. The number on the shelf tag has increased. The number on the back of the package has decreased. You track one of these numbers. The company tracks the other. This is not a coincidence of which number you pay attention to. You walk into a shopping mall. You have one thing to buy. You know exactly what it is. You walk past a store you hadn't planned to enter. You go in. Then you come out and walk a little further and enter another store. 40 minutes later, you are somewhere in the middle of the mall with 3 bags, having bought nothing on your original list, unable to immediately locate the exit. This feeling, this mild, pleasantly confused dislocation has a name. Victor Gruen gave it to you, and he spent the rest of his life trying to take it back. Victor Gruen was an Austrian-born architect who designed the first enclosed shopping mall in America, the Southdale Center in Edina, Minnesota, which opened in 1956. He introduced a deliberate architectural disorientation system, now known as the Gruen transfer, named after him by critics, not by himself. The design principles: no clocks visible anywhere in the mall, no windows to the outside world, paths that curve so you cannot see where you are going, anchor stores placed at maximum distance from each other to force traversal of the full retail corridor, identical flooring throughout to prevent spatial memory from forming. The combined effect of these features was documented by retail anthropologist Paco Underhill in his 2000 book, Why We Buy, Shoppers entering a mall with a specific purchase in mind spend an average of 12 to 15 minutes longer in the building than their intended task requires, and make an average of 1.8 unplanned purchases per visit. Grun's design had made leaving slightly harder than entering, and staying slightly easier than going. What Grun himself thought about this outcome is documented clearly. In a 1978 speech in Vienna, he disavowed his own invention. "I refuse to pay alimony for those bastard developments," he told his audience, referring to the American shopping malls that had proliferated using his designs. His original vision had been for the mall to serve as a civic commons, a European-style public square adapted for the American suburb. What his architecture had actually produced was a consumer retention machine. He had engineered the confusion. He had not intended its purpose. The mall you most recently visited contains no clocks. Note that now from memory. Note where the exit was relative to where you entered. Grun built the gap between those two pieces of information deliberately, then spent his final years trying to explain that he hadn't meant to. You are looking at a product on Amazon. You save it to your cart and go back to it the next day. The price has changed. It went up. You think, strange. You close the tab and open it on your phone. The price is different on your phone from what it was on your laptop. You check again an hour later on your laptop. The number has moved again. You are not imagining this. The product is actively repricing itself in response to signals you are generating: your browsing history, your location, your device, the time of day, and how many times you have looked at this exact product. Amazon's automated pricing algorithm changes prices on the platform up to 2.5 million times per day across its product inventory, according to an analysis by business intelligence firm Boomerang Commerce, published in 2013. The scale of this repricing system means that a given product's price may shift dozens of times between your first view and your purchase decision. A 2014 study by researchers at Northeastern University examined Amazon's pricing patterns systematically and found evidence of what they described as systematic price discrimination. Differential pricing correlated with user signals, including browsing history and device type. The researchers documented that identical products were shown at different prices to users exhibiting different behavioral profiles. The study, authored by Aniko Hanak and colleagues, was published at the ACM Internet Measurement Conference and drew significant press coverage for its methodology and findings. The mechanism that makes dynamic pricing behavior effective is loss aversion asymmetry. Consumers respond more strongly to a price increase than to an equivalent price decrease. If you see a product at $89, leave the page and return to find it at $95, the $6 increase feels like a loss, even though you never paid $89. The algorithm has now introduced urgency into your decision. The price went up, it might go up again, and you have inadvertently demonstrated your interest by returning to the listing multiple times. Every time you have revisited an Amazon product listing after the first view, you have provided data that adjusts the price you see. The algorithm does not know your name, it knows your behavior pattern. In many cases, that is more useful. You are sitting down at Balthazar, the Keith McNally restaurant in New York's Soho neighborhood. A waiter places a menu in front of you. In the upper right corner of the menu, there is a seafood tower. It costs $115. You are not going to order the seafood tower. Nobody at your table is going to order the seafood tower. You look at the rest of the menu. There is a steak for $42. There is a roasted chicken for $34. There are pasta dishes in the low 30s. These all feel reasonable. You order the $42 steak with minimal hesitation and feel like you've made a sensible choice in an expensive city. This is anchoring in menu engineering, And the $115 seafood tower is not primarily a seafood tower. It is a calibration device. Cornell University food and beverage researcher Sybil Yang and her colleagues documented this specific mechanism in a 2012 eye tracking study. Diners' eyes moved to the highest-priced item on a menu within the first 3 seconds of viewing it, and the presence of an extreme anchor item at the menu's upper right, the zone that receives initial visual attention, measurably increased the average check size for the remainder of the table's order. The psychological mechanism is standard anchoring theory, documented by Amos Tversky and Daniel Kahneman in 1974 in their foundational work on cognitive heuristics. When evaluating prices, the first number encountered in a series establishes the reference point against which all subsequent numbers are evaluated. A $42 steak evaluated in isolation might trigger price consideration. A $42 steak evaluated after encountering a $115 seafood tower is measurably more likely to be ordered without hesitation because the reference point has shifted. Menu engineers, a professional specialization that barely existed before the 1990s, design menus with this principle as a structural rule. The highest-priced item occupies the upper right. Mid-tier items, considered most profitable, are placed in high visibility zones with visual borders or slight formatting distinctions. The cheapest items are listed without price formatting, which research shows reduces the pain of price evaluation. You experienced this the last time you sat down in a restaurant that prints its own menus. The $115 seafood tower worked on you even though you didn't order it. It worked the moment you read it. Everything that followed, the $42 steak, the sense of reasonable value, the absence of sticker shock, was the product of a number you dismissed. You go to the supermarket for milk. You enter through the front. The milk is at the back. You walk the full width and depth of the store, past every aisle, through the bakery smell that exists partly because it is designed to exist, past the flowers and the prepared foods and the full-price items with the best margins. You reach the milk. The milk is cheap, often below cost, deliberately so. You pick it up and you walk back through everything you just walked past, and this time you are holding something, and you are almost certainly not walking all the way back through without adding anything to your basket. This is the loss leader architecture, and the placement of milk at the furthest possible point from the entrance of a grocery store has been documented as deliberate industry practice since at least the 1950s. Retail consultant Herb Sorensen spent 2 decades conducting in-store shopper tracking studies, published in his 2009 book, Shopping with Your Brain. His research, which tracked shopper movement patterns using then-novel cart-mounted technology across hundreds of stores, found that milk placement at maximum distance from the entrance increased the average number of items purchased on milk-only trips by 40 to 60% compared to control conditions. The milk itself is typically priced at or below cost, a genuine loss for the retailer on that individual item, because its function is not to generate margin, but to generate traffic and dwell time. The economics require that the incremental purchases triggered by the store traversal more than compensate for the loss on the anchor item. Across large format grocery retailers, this calculation has held reliably enough that milk placement at the rear of stores has remained standard practice for 70 years. The bakery smell near the entrance is deliberate. A 2018 study by researchers at the Wageningen University in the Netherlands, published in the Journal of Food Quality and Preference, found that ambient bakery aromas in retail environments increased impulsive purchase behavior by measurable amounts compared with no-scent controls. The fresh flowers near the entrance signal freshness signals for the entire store. The prepared foods are placed where you pass after the deli counter has already made you hungry. The supermarket is a built environment, not a building. Every decision about what goes where was made by someone who has read the same research Sorensen spent 20 years conducting. You went in for milk. The store went in for you.